Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to Media Pulse, the show where we help you make sense of Thai politics.
It seems that the political news this week is once again all about Thaksin Shinawatra, the former Prime Minister, isn't it?
Yeah, he has been making more headlines as we speak towards the end of the year, hasn't he? And speaking of Thaksin, the 14th floor scandal is still an issue, and it is likely that it will continue to be an issue that's talked about well into 2025.
No, it's quite clear that this scandal has never stopped coming back, haunting him.
Yeah, so I think we're going to briefly look at the latest developments as well as trying to make sense of the conflicting messages that comes from many parties. So to name a few, there's the Constitutional Court, the NACC, the Justice Minister, Department of Corrections, Police General Hospital, the red shirts, the yellow shirts. Everybody seems to have something to say about this scandal.
Quite a number of agencies have been dragged into be involved in deciding whether or not something has gone wrong with this case.
Yeah. Exactly. So judging from the list of people involved, obviously the 14th floor scandal is no small issue. So a quick recap. So in August he came back last year and never spent a day in jail. Instead, he was allowed to stay in a VIP suite on the 14th floor of the Police General Hospital until his release on parole in February this year.
Among the many questions that his critics have been asking, these two are the loudest. One, who allowed him to stay at the hospital instead of the prison? Second, how serious was his condition that he had to be admitted to the police hospital?
Yeah, and there have been many complaints and petitions against this 14th floor scandal, but there are three most recent ones that we're going to talk about this week in the program. So let's start from the National Anti-Corruption Commission, or the NACC, which agreed to consider a complaint filed against the Director General of the Police Hospital. Now, the petitioners claim that according to witnesses, Thaksin showed no signs of serious illness while at the hospital, and there were no officials from the corrections department present on the 14th floor where Thaksin stayed.
And earlier this week, a group of protesters gathered at the office of the NACC, the anti-corruption agency, to show their support for the agency, and at the same time to demand a speedy investigation into the complaint. And we'll take a further look into this later on.
Yeah, sure. And another investigation into Thaksin's hospital stay includes the Medical Council. So this one is looking into the professional conduct of doctors at the Police General Hospital and the Department of Corrections. So simply put, we are talking about the second question we highlighted earlier. So that is Thaksin's medical diagnosis, which put him in the police hospital.
But not all that we have said is bad for Thaksin, right? Because this week the Constitutional Court dismissed a complaint which claims that Justice Minister Thepchai, the director of the police hospital and the commander of the Bangkok remand prison, helped Thaksin to avoid spending time in jail. It simply means that the court dismissed the charges.
So what is all these conflicting messages telling us about Thai politics?
All right, we move on to another development in Thai politics, and again is about former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra.
Yes,
there seems to be no escape from him.
Yeah, he has always been known as one of Thailand's most divisive political leaders.
No, but for once he has proven himself that he can also be a unifying figure.
Unifying figure in a very interesting way, I would say. So now some of the former core leaders of the so-called red and yellow shirts, who were once political rivals, are joining forces against him. That's why we're saying unifying. And this is giving credence to the old saying, the enemy of your enemy is your friend.
All right, and as we mentioned earlier, on Wednesday, scores of protesters gathered at the headquarters of the National Anti-Corruption Commission, demanding a prompt investigation into allegations that a group of senior government officials colluded to facilitate Thaksin's stay at the police hospital. despite his prison sentence requiring him to serve time behind bars.
Yeah, and the people who led the protests were actually former prominent members of the anti-Thaksin and the pro-Thaksin movement. So who now seems to be sharing the view that the former prime minister is a threat to the country's democracy.
As you can see on the screen, these are some of the familiar faces dating back to the days of political turmoil when they belonged to opposing sides. Now they are united against one common enemy, that is Thaksin Shinawatra.
Yes, and one of the prominent figures in that protest was Jatuporn Phompan, right? He was once a die-hard Thaksin supporter, and this time he blasted the former prime minister for the preferential treatment he received while claiming to be recuperating from serious illnesses at the hospital. Now he said, despite the jail term he received, this is Jatuporn, Thaksin never spent a single day behind bars, so Jatuporn gets angry.
That's right. Without a doubt, Jatuporn now has become one of the most vocal critics of Thaksin. The protesters on that day submitted a petition to the anti-corruption agency demanding that the investigation be concluded without any interference as quickly as possible. Their fear is that there would be pressure from whoever is in power that would make the investigation into the scandal, invalid.
Yeah, and the NACC a few days earlier agreed to consider the complaint filed against the Director General of the Corrections Department and the Chief Doctor at the Police General Hospital and 10 other officials for allegedly allowing Thaksin to remain in the hospital for 6 months instead of serving his sentence in prison, despite not having any life-threatening conditions.
No, in the petition, they also refer to witnesses who visited Thaksin at the hospital and reported that Thaksin showed no signs of serious illnesses and was not under supervision of correction officials as required by the regulations, meaning that Thaksin was at ease and showing no signs of he was really sick as he claimed to be.
Remember Seri episode?
The former police chief
Yeah.
who claimed to have visited Thaksin twice
Yes.
and has a very cordial conversation with Thaksin
I know.
under no supervision of any corrections officials at all.
But he's gone quiet after that. So yeah, we wonder what evidence he holds. So the petition also alleges that no medical reports have been made available to justify Thaksin's transfer from the prison hospital to the Police General Hospital on the very first day he was supposed to serve his sentence. And the petition also accuses the officials of abusing their power to favor Thaksin, an action that they allege undermines the credibility of the justice system.
Okay. What is interesting is that this is not the first time that former core yellow and red shirt leaders show signs that they have buried their hatchets. A week earlier, they also held a gathering over dinner to discuss the current state of the political affairs.
Yeah. So we have a social media post by Nipit Intarasombat, a former MP from Pathalung. He claims that they gathered to talk about Thai politics in general, and Nipit was quoted as saying, "It is not like we are conspiring on something."
Of course, we still remember very well that the yellow shirt supporters played an instrumental role in paving the way for Thaksin to be ousted by the military in 2006.
Yes.
And these people still continue to distrust the former prime minister and are opposed to his increasingly dominant political role since his return from self-exile last year.
And many of the red shirt leaders, meanwhile, have turned against Thaksin, and they believe that they have been used only as a political pawn by the former prime minister.
Okay. And Jatuporn, of course, is one of the former red shirt leaders who ended up in prisons. And it's understandable why he has been blasting Thaksin for betraying the red shirt movement. But who cares? And Thaksin no longer needs the support of the red shirts. He thinks his charisma and his old appeal is enough to help him bring back the good old days when he was able to rule unchallenged.
Yeah, so that's what we mean by a unifying figure. So he's been unifying the red shirts and the yellow shirts together, because these are people that we would not have imagined would be sharing a meal together cordially.
All right, cordially.
Okay, so the media headlines in the past week still continue to be dominated by the fallout from the much publicized seminar of the ruling party, Thepchai in Hua Hin, during the weekend before.
You know, the Hua Hin retreat was supposed to be a forum for the party to discuss its political directions and strategy for the coming year, right? And for obvious reasons, however, media attention was entirely focused on former Prime Minister Thaksin and what he said during the gathering.
So it turns into Thaksin's show, more or less.
Even Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, who is a party leader, was completely overshadowed by her father. Of course, I can say that nobody even remembers what Thaksin said at the seminar.
Yeah, I guess you're right. So officially, Thaksin was there as a keynote speaker, but he wasted no time in using the platform to demonstrate who is the real boss of the ruling party and that of the coalition government.
You know, out of the blue, during his speech, Thaksin took aim at certain political parties, which are partners of his daughter's coalition government. Thaksin said he took offense at the absence of several cabinet members during the cabinet meeting on December 11th, during which a royal decree on international tax measures was to be discussed.
Yeah, well, in the course of this tirade, Thaksin accused the unspecified political parties of dishonoring their commitment as a coalition partner. Yeah. And here's what he has to say. He says, "Don't they share the Suphan blood? Aren't we supposed to be in the same boat?" A visibly irritated Thaksin asked the audience.
But what is Suphan blood or Lut Suphan that the former Prime Minister was referring to? The Thai media, of course, have had a heyday interpreting the meaning of this phrase.
Yeah, so Thaksin was actually referring to the title of a very old musical, and the story portrayed the battles between the invading Burmese troops and the Thai defenders during the Ayutthaya period. And the scene was set in the area which is now Suphanburi. That's why it's called Suphan Blood, a province in central Thailand it is. Yeah.
The musical aimed to inspire unity and patriotism among modern Thai people by showcasing the bravery and sacrifices of the outnumbered Thai warriors and ordinary villagers against the invading Burmese. So even up to these days, the phrase Lut Suphan or Suphan blood is still a very popular rallying cry for Thai people when they unite for a mission or a goal.
Yeah, so in Thailand, saying we have Suphan blood signifies the readiness to endure hardships and persevere no matter what the challenges.
So in short, in Thaksin's eyes, the political parties that he chastised are no longer trustworthy as partners, because in his eyes, they are no longer prepared to go through the thick and thin with his daughter's ruling party.
You know, the funny thing is, in the coalition, there's actually an MP who's 100% Suphan blood. So he's originally from Suphanburi. And we're talking about Warawu Silapa Asha. And he, this is funny, because he came out and told to reporters that he believes Thaksin did not mean to single out his Chart Thai Patana party. And Warawu said his party would never leave anyone behind.
Okay. And that wasn't the end of the story with Thaksin on the stage at the Thepchai party meeting yet. In his speech, Thaksin also said, "I hate masqueraders." Again, what did he mean by masqueraders or pretenders?
Right.
Without naming anyone, Thaksin criticized certain politicians in the coalition for initially pretending to support his daughter's government policies. However, once they secured cabinet position as political rewards, they simply faded away, keeping distance from the government. Thaksin referred to these individuals as masqueraders or pretenders.
Yeah, and then he challenged them as well to clarify their political stance. He said, we are in the same boat and need to stick together. If you don't want to be part of this, let me know. Next time you play truant, make sure you do it with your resignation letter.
No, in short, Thaksin was suggesting that he was ready to cut loose any coalition partners which do not toe the line.
Right. There were actually 7 cabinet members absent from that cabinet meeting in question. But all eyes have been on Anutin Chanvirakul, the interior minister and the leader of Thepchai Thai party, which is a major partner in the Pathongthan coalition. Anutin was quick to distance himself from what Thaksin said, and he insisted that he had a doctor appointment on that day, but did return for the latter half of the cabinet meeting.
No, Anutin was just one of these, a number of senior figures in the coalition government who kept saying, it's not me that Thaksin was talking about. No, even Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra was at a loss for words over what her father had said when she was asked for comment by journalists. But that doesn't mean that she was surprised by what happened.
Yeah, I guess political analysts do believe that Thaksin was simply venting his fury on the coalition partners, like on his daughter's behalf.
Yeah. No, the incident, in fact, was only the latest in a series of developments that political analysts believe demonstrate the widening rift between the two biggest parties in the coalition government, Thepchai and Thepchai Thai.
Yeah, that's true. Because remember a few months back, Anutin put the brakes on an attempt of Thepchai party to push through a constitutional amendment that sought to revise ethical standards for political office holders. And Anutin also voiced opposition to Thai's plan to legalize casinos in the country.
And in another side of dissidence, Thepchai Thai also takes a stand different from that of Thai party on the issue of the referendum bill by insisting on the principle of double majority, which requires over half of the voters to participate in the referendum, and that the majority of those who cast their votes must approve it. Thai, however, wants a principle of single majority that requires only a majority vote in the referendum, regardless of the turnout. The referendum bill is a key instrument that would pave the way for future amendments of the Constitution. And this only reaffirms what is seen as an attempt by the ruler-based Thepchai Thai to try to present itself as a conservative and loyalist force, hoping to appeal to conservative middle class, which was once the support base of former Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha.
That makes sense, actually, strategically, politically. Yeah. And earlier this month, the Thepchai Thai leader came out to strongly oppose the bill introduced by a group of Thai MPs to supposedly prevent future military coups. So Thaksin hit back by saying that Anutin was too quick to act smart by opposing the bill. And yes, Thaksin did use the phrase acting smart to describe Anutin's outright objection to the bill.
Now, the Thai media even quoted some political analysts as speculating that Thai and Thepchai Thai parties are nearing a breaking point now.
In fact, it's no secret that the two parties have had rather uneasy relationship all along. Yes, they are partners in the coalition, but there seems to be little trust between them, and they are even seen as political rivals, vying for political dominance in rural constituencies.
As the leader of the second biggest party in the ruling coalition government, Anutin has been regarded as a prime minister in waiting with an ambition to win big in the next general elections. His Thepchai Thai party is believed to have close connections with a significant number of members of the Senate, which still wields considerable power.
Yeah, Thaksin doesn't even hold any formal positions in Thai party or in the government, and yet he gave himself the liberty of chastising partners in his daughter's coalition government. And that certainly speaks volume about the influence in the party and how much he trusts Anutin and Thepchai Thai party.
No, but there has also been the speculation that in the Thai media that another target of Thaksin's fury is the United Thai Nation Party, another partner in the Patongtan coalition government. Its leader, Pirapan Sarirathavipak, who is currently Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Energy, was also absent from the said cabinet meeting.
So the party was once a political base of former Prime Minister General Prayut Chan-o-cha, who was incorporated into the Patongtan coalition as part of the reported political deal that allowed Thaksin to return from his self-exile. And political analysts believe that there has been some bad blood between the United Thai Nation and Pheu Thai parties from the very beginning. And now Thaksin is confident enough that the United Thai Nation is dispensable.
So in Thaksin's eyes, according to the political analysts, with an absolute House majority of 320 MPs, the Pheu Thai-led coalition government should not have any love lost for a coalition member with only 36 MPs like the United Thai Nation Party if it is to be kicked out.
Yeah, so it seems that these political analysts share a view that the old Thaksin, who tolerates no dissent and challenges, is now back in full force.
That's right.
And what we are witnessing is merely the beginning of the former Prime Minister efforts to establish a new political order centered around himself.
After all, Thaksin's return to Thailand is not about looking after his grandchildren as he initially claimed. Clearly, he has come back to reclaim what he refers to as his lost 17 years, the period he spent in self-exile. So, much like the US President-elect Donald Trump, Thaksin has his list of adversaries against whom he is going to seek revenge.
Payback time.
Payback time.
So we've talked about the government side. Let's look at what the opposition has been up to recently. So the former red shirts and yellow shirts and the people who united against Thaksin had dinner together, right? The opposition coalition also had dinner together. And the media reports we surveyed mostly talked about what was on the menu and the opposition's plan for a motion of no confidence in Parliament next year, and the fact that General Prawit Wongsuwan did not join the dinner. Now, the dinner itself might not be that interesting, but what is interesting is the big change in the number of opposition MPs, 20 to be exact.
Okay.
Yeah.
So remember the crack within the Palang Pracharat party that has been widening since its leader, Kun Prawit Wongsuwan, and Thammanat Phomphao, a party rebel, could not agree on the cabinet position a few months back, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And there was a breaking point between them. That was the major cause for the split in the party.
Yes, then there's a split in the party and then the party got dropped.
Yeah.
Because Palang Pracharat was dropped from the coalition when Patongtan formed a government in August. And since then, the rift between the party leader and the Secretary General has gotten worse. Yeah. So, and that came to a breaking point last week when the party decided to expel 20 MPs who sided with Thammanat. So these MPs joined the Clare party in the coalition government on Wednesday.
You can be sure that Clare party, a newly formed party, is going to be a force to reckon with in the next general election.
Yeah, but why all of a sudden the party decided to expel their MPs? I mean, it seems like General Prawit has been in a downward spiral of unfortunate political episodes, it seems.
I think he has lost control of the party now. He's no longer an influential figure as he once was seen as, right? No, but for Thammanat, veteran politicians and who has been making a lot of noises, for Kun Thammanat in particular, his breakaway from Palang Pracharat to join Clare party marks another milestone in his very colorful political journey.
That's true. He came a long way from his days as a shadowy figure, allegedly entangled in various scandals, and his entry into politics proved successful, though not without enduring setbacks and challenges along the way.
Of course, we all remember that while serving as Deputy Agriculture Minister in the Prayut government in 2020, his involvement in a heroin smuggling case in Australia came back to haunt him. He was subject to a brutal onslaught in a no-confidence debate in connection with his prison term on drug charges in New South Wales in 1994. In 2021, opposition MPs tried unsuccessfully to have the Constitutional Court declare him unfit for office. He was then serving as Deputy Agriculture Minister. The court at the time said it did not recognize Thamanat's conviction because the verdict was delivered in a foreign country, and that was Australia.
So Thamanat is now 59 and he has consistently denied any involvement in the drug smuggling case. His conviction was reported to be the result of a plea bargain.
But the drug case failed to stop him from rising to the very high positions, and eventually saw him appointed as Agriculture Minister in the Setha government. But he was ditched from the Patongtan cabinet amid conflicts within his Palang Pracharat party. So now that Thamanat and his breakaway group of MPs from Palang Pracharat have found a new home in Kla Tham party, he is certainly seen as a new political force in the next general elections.
Yeah, I guess that's right. The Thai politics is about to get a lot more exciting in the coming year. So that's it for this week and the last episode of this year. We're taking a break for one episode next week. And
see you next year.
Yeah, we'll definitely see you next year. So happy holidays. I hope your dreams and wishes come true. Stay healthy. We'll see you in 2025.
See you then.
Bye.